Arizona back home hosting USC. Connor Hope, Heat Check CBB is here. I'm GregWaddell, Sleepers Media. We did not do a recap of Arizona's loss at Washington State, but I'll do a quick, Spark Notes summary for you. We were wrong about everything. We both said that Arizona was highly likely to steamroll Washington State. We couldn't see how they could keep up. Nope, got that one wrong. Washington State really dictated the tempo in that game. A lot of long possessions, back-breaking type scores early. They led for most of the game. Arizona, I don't know what to make of them, at least away from home. I have serious questions about this team right now. Now they're back home against USC, so maybe those questions don't matter. But quickly, what did you learn about Arizona and their loss at Washington State?
This is the first game Arizona's lost this season where it wasn't about outscoring, like where it wasn't about scoring and keeping up with Arizona. Arizona has now scored fewer than 80 points 3 times this season. The win against Duke, the win against Michigan State, and this loss against Washington State. This was the fewest points Arizona had scored all season. And I agree. I think if you look at the way they've played, they have 3 wins away from home, or away from Phoenix area, that is. They have the win over Duke, they have the win over Michigan State, and the win over Cal, which puts them at 3-4 in games where they're playing outside of the Phoenix metro area. So I just don't know if I trust them to win away from home. This game to me was a lot worse and a lot more kind of eye-opening than the last 3 losses for Arizona, mainly because in this loss, they just couldn't score. The other 3 losses, lost to the best team or second best team, depending on what you think, in the country. They lost in double overtime to a team that plays to the level of their competition in every game they play. And they lost to a team that shot 65% from 3. This game was outside of that. You can kind of almost write the other 3 losses off as either tough losses or like Stanford just couldn't be stopped kind of losses. This loss was a loss where you see Arizona give up 73 points. You think they win that game by 10 or more. And this is a game where they just didn't.
Yeah. There's a lot, like, on paper, it's like check the boxes. If this is true about this game, then, oh yeah, Arizona's going to win big. Until you get to the Arizona side of it, and you're like, okay, Kylan Boswell had 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists in 25 minutes. I don't know how to explain that one away. I affectionately am referring to that as a colic. He colicked, because I keep being told, look, I'm a Big Ten, I'm just a Midwesterner, Connor, you know this. I keep getting told there's all these point guards around the country that are just high-level All-American types, and they keep putting up stinkers and bad performances in games they shouldn't lose. And I've affectionately dubbed that a colic, because he had a couple bad ones in a row. Now Kylan Boswell with his first colic of the year. I don't know what to make of it. He's been trending in the wrong direction to me. I believe in the talent there. He's too good of a player, but man, he's got 5 points or less now in 3 of his last 5 games. Arizona has a lot of players who can do a lot of things, can score the basketball, but the head of the snake's got to be better than that. And to me, that comes with a certain level of offensive production, especially on a night where the other guys weren't going crazy. It's not like Keshad Johnson was going nuts. It's not like Pell Larson was on fire. You need the guy with the ball in his hands to go out and be aggressive, and Kylan Boswell was not that in this spot. This is supposed to be a preview, so we will look forward with it, but I think there was a lot to learn about Arizona in that game, and they're still a metrics darling. I think that's fair. They're one of the best teams in the country, but it's a team that I really don't trust away from home right now. Now, this game against USC is at home, so throw those concerns out the window. USC's last game, they were at Colorado without, their 3 best players minimum, maybe 4 best players, depending on who you ask for USC. It was bad. Like they looked great in the first half. That's why it was bad. Like they had a 16-point lead at one point, 15-point lead. Sorry, it was 37-22 right before halftime. And then they give up a 33-8 run to open the second half. Colorado just runs away with it. They win the game by double digits. As crazy as it sounds, are you impressed by what USC did last game without Boogie Ellis and without the other big names they were missing?
No. I don't know if I've been impressed by USC at all this year, to be honest. I mean, their most impressive game might have been the loss to Gonzaga, and that's Gonzaga, right? Like, you went into that game, they kind of kept it close. You saw the promise from Isaiah Collier, who's now hurt. You saw, a couple of other players play well against Gonzaga. They're a team, they have not won more than 2 games in a row all season. And that includes a stretch where they played Kansas State, Bakersfield, Irvine, Brown. That includes a stretch where they played Eastern Washington, Gonzaga, Long Beach State. That includes a stretch where they played Alabama State, Oregon, Oregon State, Cal, Stanford, Washington State. And they have not had a single stretch of more than 2 wins in a row. They have one road win this season, and that was against Alabama State, who per KenPom is nearly outside the top 300. They are without Collier. They just don't look good. And I think this is an indictment on Andy Enfield, because say what you want about Enfield, it feels like his teams always underperform. And the saving grace for Enfield has been one or both of the Mobley brothers and their ability to control the paint defensively and offensively and on the boards. And they don't have that this year. For as good as we thought Joshua Morgan was, he has not been that. And so I just think we're looking at a game where Arizona blows USC out.
Yeah, I think one of the last things that USC should have hoped for was getting a pissed off Arizona team. And that's my strong belief. I think we saw something similar with in my Big Ten circles with Purdue over the weekend, where they dropped the game at Nebraska. It was a baffling performance. They really got outplayed from start to finish. And then they go back home to Mackey Arena and they catch a Penn State team that is just lifeless. And it was a 30-point game early in the first half. I think we're going to see similar here. I think we're going to see Arizona at their best. They've been stellar at home this season. You go through basically every single performance at home this year. They're flirting with putting 100 points on the team, if not putting 100 points on the team. USC, to me, I agree with you on Enfield. I've never been the biggest Enfield guy in general. I think he's fine. I don't think, like, if you're a high major program with dreams of contending for Final Fours, I don't think he can be your guy. And it's hard to pin too much on him this year for me because of the injuries. Like, I don't think there's many coaches in the country that could cobble together success missing their important players. But with that said, he had a lot of his important players for the first 2 months of the year, and the team still looked really, really bad. So we can't explain away the early losses just because they played an inspired game at Colorado without 3 of their guys. I am a little curious in this game. Was USC's performance in the first half against Colorado, was that their best punch or not? Because I can't imagine a team whose best player is, I guess, Kobe Johnson at this point, DJ Rodman maybe. I don't know. I can't imagine a team like that can go into Arizona and do better than they did in the first half at Colorado, which, by the way, like, Colorado was at full strength. They had De Silva, they had Cody Williams back. Like, Colorado had their guys, so it's not an excuse. Like, USC being up was notable in that game. It just fell off the train or the tracks in the second half. What do you think is a best case scenario for USC in this game? Like, can they be close at halftime in this game?
I don't know, because if you look at USC, even with Boogie Ellis and Isaiah Collier, but especially without them, they've had 2 games since like November where they've had a turnover percentage where they've had a turnover percentage under like 15%. And you're going up against a team in Arizona who is really good at taking advantage of turnovers, especially at home. So I spoke at length earlier this season about Isaiah Collier's turnover issues. He's not the only one on this roster that turns the ball over. Joshua Morgan turns the ball over quite a bit. I don't know if we've had enough in terms of what we've seen from Bronny James, but like he's not going to come in and be a huge plus in the turnover department either. So, and he might be their best or at least most efficient ball handler now that Boogie Ellis is gone. So, or ailing. So I think Arizona is going to. I think you're more likely to see Arizona blow the doors off USC early and then just let off the gas late. But like you said, if they're angry about that loss to Washington State, which they should be, that's a dangerous place to be for USC.
Yeah, 100%. I give USC credit, like I said, for what they did in the first half against Colorado. I also would be lying to you if I said I did not immediately sprint to my online sports book and put a hefty wager on Colorado money line at halftime. It was one of my best bets of the season. So if I somehow get the opportunity to do that again in this game, I will be very pleased. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's time for predictions. I have Arizona winning this game by 25 to 30 points. I think this is a good old-fashioned butt whipping. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I think USC's performance is going to be about as good as mine has been today, with the noise of a 15-month-old in the background. Much like USC's youth is going to hurt them. And I don't know if it's 25 to 30, but I think it's certainly 20 plus. I think Arizona is going to put up at least 85 points in this game and win by like 20 to 25.
Yeah. All right. It's good to be aligned again, my friend. One final one-word question for you. Are you in or out on Arizona as a national championship contender this season?
Here's the tough part, right, for me. To me, they have to win 4 games in a row and then they play at home.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
you're right.
Like I get the whole they get moved into a hotel for the Final Four or whatever, and so it's not really like they're sleeping in their own beds, but they're playing in the Phoenix area. If they win 4 in a row, they're going to be a 1 or a 2 seed. So really, it's you have to win 3 in a row. Although last year they were a 1 or a 2 seed. Yeah, I think I still buy them, only because when it really comes down to playing against another 1 or a 2 seed, it's going to be the Elite Eight and then 2 essentially home games. It's why I bought Houston last year, and I know it didn't come to fruition, but like I bought Houston because I felt like if they had gotten through the first 2 weekends, they could win in that Final Four. The same thing I think applies to Arizona. If this were in Indy, though, like I think my opinion would switch a little bit. So I still buy them, but I buy them more as like they can win it or they can lose in the first weekend, much like in Alabama, much like a Creighton, much like an Arizona. So
yeah. The group you just lumped them into, I think, is the correct group. I'm glad you're still in. I love the talent. I love the potential. I could certainly see it happening, but I'm out on it. I don't like the teams you just mentioned are teams that I would all put in a bag. I don't trust them to win 6 straight. I trust them to win 2 straight. I trust them to pour 112 points 2 straight games. And then I think there's a stinker coming at some point before you get to that point where you've won 4 straight. And one thing I know it doesn't work this way, but I don't think they're going to have a 4-game stretch the rest of the season that's nearly as tough as whatever they'll see in the NCAA tournament. They had one early. Like you could go through and say Michigan State, Colgate, Wisconsin, Purdue. That feels NCAA tournament-ish, or even Wisconsin, Purdue, Alabama, Florida Atlantic back to back to back. I'll be very curious if Arizona ever wins 4 straight games this season, because I think they are that inconsistent that when they have to go on the road, they're going to drop games they shouldn't lose. If they string together a long winning streak, maybe my opinion will change. But for now, I just don't think they're consistent enough. They're either phenomenal or they're not.
See, for me, this is the like Oregon is the linchpin in all of this, but it's a homestand against the LA schools and a homestand against the Bay Area schools, sandwiching Oregon State and Oregon on the road. And the only loss I really see in there, or possible loss, is Oregon. Oregon State, I just don't think is as good even as Stanford or Washington State, enough to beat Arizona. But that said, 2 days separating Oregon State on the road and Oregon on the road, like that Oregon game is if they lose and don't win 6 in a row, that's where it happens. But I agree with you. After that, I think they dropped one of the 2 games against the mountain schools on the road. They have 3 home games in a row, but then they go on the road against their rival in Arizona State, who has been up and down, but they certainly have shown that they have the talent to beat Arizona at home if it gets into one of those kind of shootouts. And then they close with the LA schools on the road. That end of season, you could also maybe see them win a bunch of games in a row, hinges on that Arizona State road win, and then UCLA on the road, which, unless what we saw from UCLA is the new UCLA, then I just think this is a team that in Arizona that has this opportunity and maybe the end of the season to win 4 in a row. I don't see them winning. I would bet again. I would take the field in the Pac-12 tournament against Arizona, is what I would say.
Spicy. Yeah. Okay. All right. It'll be very fascinating to watch this team throughout the rest of the season. All right. Thank you, Connor Hope, Heat Check CBB. I'm GregWaddell, Sleepers Media. We should have a recap up of this game later this week on the Sleepers Media YouTube channel. Click subscribe so you do not miss it.